Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, or every nook and cranny that gets the signal from our 100,000 watt transmitter, making it into those magical boxes known as radios for those who still use it. Good morning to the entire world who, through the magic of the internet, can hear us all over the world. And in fact, the first person in our chat this morning is Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Lots happening in the world. So therefore, before we get started, we go to the genius, the geniuses in the studio on Cataline. Good morning, geniuses. How are y'all doing today?
Jack, come and get out of your cranny now.
Oh, man.
He's stuck in his cranny. We're doing okay. The tin cans and string have held up overnight, so we're grateful for that. Also, I'd like to invite all of our listeners to tune in today, this morning at 10 o'clock, as Akua Holt from Pan-African Journal will hold an hour-long tribute to Sheila Jackson Lee before we join the service at 11 o'clock. So tune in at 10 o'clock for the pregame. Well, I call it a pregame show. It's not really a game, but I would like to invite all of our listeners to tune in and listen to Akua's tribute to Sheila Jackson Lee. She's got a lot of things listed here, a lot of sound bites, a lot of interviews. So it should be very interesting and very heart-touching. Akua Holt from Pan-African Journal put this thing together. She and I have been cooperating for the past couple of days getting this thing together. So I'm very excited about that, and I will be sitting on the board pushing the buttons for her. She's a great lady. I really like Akua a lot, so I think you will too. Join us at 10 o'clock this morning here on KPFT. And Jack, what have you got?
Well, good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. All's good. All's good. Talk to me, my brother.
All right, this is about our favorite subject, corporate abuse. At some point, the people will stand up to corporate greed. The people have the power of the purse. You can quit paying the institutions that are enslaving us, private for-profit insurance companies. The people must show the corporate they can do without insurance. They can wobble the institutions that are abusing and exploiting the nation's tax dollars and the people paying them. I know it's pretty scary to think of going without insurance, but if enough people would take this action, it will send a message. So let's have an insurance revolt.
Oh, okay.
I'm
burning my insurance card right now.
It's interesting because people have more power than they think. I don't know if you remember during the pandemic, the corps they were in a panic because when people stopped spending, it created put it this way. There's a time where a barrel of oil was negative. In other words, cost less than zero. They were paying you to take a barrel of oil. It was only a day that it lasted or so. but it shows you the power that people really have if they ever decided to exercise that power. But anyhow, you guys know today is Thursday, which we call El Señor Neil Aquino Day. Mr. Neil Aquino, how art thou doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Good luck to everyone in the new month ahead, and good morning to this gold medal audience of politics done right globally. And Barcelona, I meant to comment last week when we mentioned Barcelona. That's been a center of a revolt against tourists, where some of the local folks have been they're tired of the large number of tourists, and they've been getting them with squirt guns, and that's been a push in some European cities. So, good morning, Barcelona, and good morning to our gold medal audience.
Absolutely, sir. But anyway, today's subject, we have quite a few subjects. Probably won't get to all of them, but the title of the show today is, and if I can get to it, it is actually called Corporate Greed Raises Its Head at John Deere. Neil Aquino discusses new protest ordinance and quite a few other things. And joining us in the house as well, or rather in the chat, is Eric Hayes. He says, guess overspend and waste via politics is not abuse. Well, Eric, you're consistent with that message, but I don't really hear you saying it too much about the orange man having spent a whole lot more than El Senor Biden. In fact, he gave away $1.7 trillion just poof to rich people, didn't pay for
Right.
it. And I don't think I heard you mention anything about that. Biden, the money that he spent went to invest in people, went to reduce poverty, didn't go to, even though, rich people got a piece of it when they got the infrastructure bill. And, they'll be providing the cement and all that kind of stuff, and they'll profit from that. But there are two different philosophies here. One is investing in people, the other one is transferring the wealth of the people to the top. And that doesn't have anything to do with fiscal responsibility. That doesn't have anything to do with fiscal knowledge. That has everything to do with ideology. Anyway, Neil, we were speaking earlier before the program started, and last night you texted me a document that I find objectionable. It's a new ordinance that nobody asked for at City Council that I actually think is unconstitutional. You told me that maybe there's precedence, but why don't you kind of read that and tell us a little bit about what you found?
Right. So this is a bit of a story to it. So this is I'm here with the Houston Democracy Project. There's a daily blog, and I'm going to be writing about this soon, and haven't yet. But this is an ordinance about protesting at people's homes. This is an ordinance about protesting at people's homes, right? And its spur has been Mayor Whitmire, and only Mayor Whitmire, it seems. Although he says that he's standing up for Ted Cruz, as he does this because people have been protesting at Ted Cruz's house. Um, Protesters over Gaza, the issue is irrelevant. But protesters pertaining to the Israeli Gaza conflict on the side of the Palestinians have been protesting at Mayor Whitmire's home. Mayor Whitmire lives near Memorial Park, so it's a nice area. It's immaterial whether it's a nice area or what community it is, but that's just the general sense. And they have been going there frequently. The mayor says, I don't believe everything the mayor says, but the mayor says that they've been coming at 9 at night, 10 at night, frequently in the morning. I know that the Gaza protesters have been coming to Ted Cruz's house frequently at Saturday mornings at 7. Ted Cruz lives in River Oaks. And so Mayor Whitmire is angry about this, and he's proposed an ordinance written in part by the Houston Police Department. And I don't want someone with a police union who endorses election deniers defining our First Amendment rights. But they've proposed an ordinance that was brought up in Houston City Council yesterday, and will come back. It was tagged by 4 council members: Pollard, Thomas, Jackson, Plummer, tagged. which means that it was held up to the next council session, which in this case is 2 weeks. They take a 1 week break, and it prohibits entirely your ability, our ability, my ability to go to a politician's home. You may or may not want that right, and you may or may not want to do that, but you certainly want that right as we enter an authoritarian moment. And this is I call it a Politician Protection Act or an anti-democracy act. Here's some language from it. It talks about what it calls focused picketing. Focused picketing shall mean picketing directed towards a specific residence, person, or persons. And behavior not allowed is marching, congregating, standing, parading, demonstrating, parking, or patrolling by one or more persons with or without signs. So Mayor Whitmire was talking about large numbers of people whom he deemed as disruptive, which of course, why wouldn't you protest? And so, I mean, often a protest is disruptive, right? But you can't even go to let's not even personalize it about Mayor Whitmire. You can't go to any politician's house. You can't go to the water commissioner or the dog catcher, stand outside their home, even without a sign, if HPD deems it a protest. So it says in the ordinance, I'm reading the ordinance, before a person may be arrested or issued a citation for a violation, the person must have been ordered to move, disperse, or remedy the violation by a peace officer, a cop, a member of the fire department, and I think that's in other ordinance actually, too. 3, a person with authority to control the use of the residence being picketed. So obviously some things are obviously a protest. If I'm standing outside of Councilperson Smith's house with a sign that says Councilperson Smith stinks, that's obviously a protest. But if I'm just standing out there without a sign, still that individual can come out and interpret my action. Get off my lawn, in essence. But in this time, the person can say, get off my public sidewalk. Get off, go 200 feet away. So it shall be unlawful for a person to engage in focused picketing within the city, on any public street, sidewalk, or alley, or public property within 200 feet of the property line of the premises of the targeted dwelling. And then it also specifies that it has to be a residence. So theoretically, you could be at an office building. The event that I'm part of, the John Cornyn Houston office protest, is at an office building. I guess that wouldn't be impacted. I'm a little wary of it. So the upshot is, you have lost this right completely. You have lost this right. So we're facing an authoritarian moment. So Ted Cruz took part in an insurrection, and you want to go to Ted Cruz's house with a sign that says Ted Cruz took part in January 6th, you'd be moved on if you were anywhere within 200 feet. But Ted Cruz can take part in an insurrection. And you no longer, you read this language, you just cannot go to any politician's house. You just cannot. You've lost that right. So if there are mass migrant roundups next year, as there may well be, no matter what's going on, you've lost that right. And so I'll turn it over to Egberto. There's some more aspects of it I'd like to talk about, but it's a big civil liberties issue. And Egberto referenced there is some precedent. We were talking before. I'm not a lawyer. I'm going by what I've read in the Chronicle and by some of the things Mayor Whitmire said, which is a terrible source, I know. There are cases where people were at abortion doctors' houses, at politicians' houses, and we might even be sympathetic to the abortion doctor being hassled. That too is irrelevant. Where there is precedent that the Supreme Court has held up, that you can't be at someone's house. So you cannot, according to federal law, go to a judge's house and protest with the intent of influencing them. And that came at issue when people were at Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh's house, I think in Maryland, last year or 2 years ago. There is some precedent, so it's not inherent. You'd say, how can you even do that? There is some precedent for it, And as for the specifics of this ordinance, I hope someone will sue. There's been no comment that I've seen. Maybe it's not been solicited by the ACLU. But at this moment in our history, for a political class to take our rights, it's always wrong. But at this moment in history, for a political class to take our rights, they just want to protect themselves, while you and I, as rank and file citizens, are on the front line against an authoritarian threat.
This is definitely an authoritarian move. One of the things that made America is the ability to protest. And I think the analogy that you gave there is perfect. Ted Cruz, while he led an insurrection, or while he was a part of an insurrection on January 6, 2021, we're now saying that we couldn't go to his home with a sign that says, or within 200 yards, because we got to make sure that 200 feet, within 200 feet of his house, which puts you not on his lawn, not on his property, but on the street.
Right.
And it's interesting because I think it's actually 200 yards of his property line, not even his home, but his property line. So that puts you way back. Right. That is offensive.
And it also disrupts his neighbors. The thing is, because you're not, so Egberto, you live 300 feet from Ted Cruz. So, 100 people could congregate there. So the hell with the neighbors.
Right.
You just can't be near the prominent person.
Right. Because since you are not protesting the neighbor doesn't have a claim. So then I could see them rewriting this ordinance that says 200 feet from any home, right? Whether you're doing it or not. It is. First of all, I think that's exactly what would happen, right? Is that eventually, if this is implemented, that the neighbors are going to say, well, look, they're not protesting me, but somehow they're affecting my life. And, so I mean, you can actually go down the rabbit hole on this one. Welcome aboard, Lizard Queen, on the chat. You can actually go down a lizard hole. This is completely insane. And this is to show that, okay, the authoritarian streak may not solely be a Republican thing, but maybe a politician thing when they have to face the people.
It's a right. So there'll be a vote. The ordinance may or may not be amended over the 2 weeks. And Mayor Whitmire put this on the agenda Monday, right before the 3:00 deadline to speak on Tuesday, right before. And the ordinance itself, the language that I'm citing to our Gold Star, our Gold Medal audience, wasn't posted on the city website until yesterday. And it was a Republican, Councilmember Julian Ramirez. I wish one of our Democrats had asked for the language. The Republican Councilman Julian Ramirez asked that the language be posted. Maybe he has First Amendment. He's a lawyer. Maybe he has First Amendment concerns. I guess we'll find out. For our Republican friends, many council members locally are endorsed by the Kingwood Tea Party. You'll see that all the time. The Kingwood council member, also representing Clear Lake, Councilmember Flickinger, is endorsed. And I can assure you, for fans of the Kingwood Tea Party, that back in Tea Party days, in colonial Boston, I assure you that the people went to the British governor's home. They went to the home of the British tax collector. Okay, it's American as apple pie, as Eldridge Cleaver said about other. It's an American right that even predates America as a nation, and I don't know how it's a small government. I don't know how it's a small government move. So there's a Republican objection to that, and I'll also note that the 4 members who objected, Pollard, Thomas, Jackson, and Plummer, are all black, and you're seeing consistently, I watch council weekly, and you're seeing consistently the opposition to Mayor Whitmire is coming from those council members, and it would be great for the other Democrats on council, Martinez, Castillo, Alcorn came in, I think I'm leaving somebody out, to speak up as well.
What is the ratio in council right now, party affiliation?
It is 10 Democrats and 6 Republicans, with Mayor Whitmire being a Democrat, and then also the controller Chris Hollins, who gave a financial report this week and criticized the city's bond rating went down because of the firefighter
Fire deal.
contract.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it
Controller
should.
gave a monthly. He gives a monthly finance report along with the city finance director. So the controller Hollins, a Democrat too,
Yeah, I
who
think
has no vote, who does not have a
right,
vote, does not have a
but
vote.
I think he'll be running for mayor in 3 years.
So the
Because
10
we
Democrats,
yeah.
the 10 Democrats could kill this. So the 10 Democrats, we this vote 10-7 could be 9-8. And I called, as I said, I'm going to write a letter. I'm sure we'll be talking about this next week. I called the Democrats. I said, you expect us to block, walk, and canvass. You know, we have this new enthusiasm with Vice President Harris. So I went to a rally for Colin Alred for Senate this past Sunday. Block, walk, canvass, volunteer. You want us to take the risks of, you want us to canvass in 96-degree heat with a dog nipping at our heel, which is a big thing in canvassing. But we can't go to your house. You want us to take the frontline risk of canvassing and going to the home. But we can't. I can't even stand outside your home with a. I can't even stand outside your home with a negative thought. I mean, by the you read this ordinance, they must have a crystal ball to probe
No,
into
the
your
ordinance makes
soul.
no sense because again, it is telling you whether you have a sign or not, whether you're one or more. Okay,
Right?
what that says is if you are walking in front of Ted
Yes.
Cruz's house and they think that you're a protester, they can just come there and throw you in a cop's car. If let's say, and here's another defect of this thing, right? The first encounter can be the homeowner, which
Yep.
makes the second encounter your
The cop.
arrest. Because what it says is if the only way you get out of it is if the first person, if after a peace officer, a member of the police department, or somebody who has authority to that home, whether it be the homeowner, a maid, or whomever, if they come outside and tell you, move,
That's
and
exactly right.
you say no, and then the next encounter is with an officer. The officer doesn't have to tell you move, they just have to throw you in the car. That's how that ordinance is written.
That's exactly right. So as a general matter, the police do not. As a general matter at a protest, the police do not want to arrest you. Um, so I've been to many protests. They usually will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 warnings. Hey, move back, get off the lawn, get off the street. But I have never seen the it says a person with authority to control the use of the residence being picketed. That's not even the homeowner.
Right,
That's
that's
a
what I
so
said. Yeah,
security guy. Ted Cruz ain't even home,
right.
but the security guy is monitoring that home. So a private individual, right, can initiate. So he tells the cop,
I
she
told
tells
them
the
to
cop,
move, and the cop just says, "Okay, put
right,
your hands behind your back." I put
yep,
the locks on, the handcuffs on, and take you down. This is a defective ordinance. I hope
or a
what
ticket.
you are going to do is, I hope you write not only a letter for your blog. I hope you write it as an LTE for the Houston Chronicle to get it out there. I know you said the article, the Houston Chronicle covered it already, right?
The Chronicle, the Axios, and the Houston Landing have all written about this, and sometimes yes, I intend to actively campaign. I'm going to speak at council. The next council meeting is the 13th of August, and public session is at 2 o'clock. Public session is at 2 o'clock every Thursday. If you go to HoustonTexas.gov, there is the city. All your city council members are listed. If you click city council, they're all there. Their phone numbers are right there. You as a citizen have 5. If you're Houstonian, you have 5 at-large council members: Ramirez, Davis, Carter, Plummer, Alcorn. You have 5 at-large council members, and then you have 1 district council member. I call all the district council members, and I'd also encourage you to call Martha Castix Tatum, who's a district councilwoman, but is the vice mayor of the city and frequently
Right.
presides over the meeting when Mayor Whitmire. She herself, Martha Castix Tatum, is a city official. So at the least, call your 5 district council members: Ramirez, Davis, Carter, Plummer, Alcorn. Call your district council member, and call Vice Mayor Castix Tatum.
This is an authoritarian, folks. This is how authoritarianism, this is how an autocratic state is formed, where you have no rights to show your objection to what these guys are doing. This seems like a simple one page of a multi-page ordinance. This one page is a danger to freedom. This one page, like I said, I don't think people understand how serious this is. Again, on this ordinance, there is what is the offense? That's the first part of the ordinance. The second thing is how can you not be prosecuted for the offense? And the third part is how do you get arrested and prosecuted for the offense? And what they made sure of is they don't need authority. They don't need police action or for the first encounter. They make it so that as soon as a cop gets there, they can throw you in the back of that car with handcuffs because the homeowner, anybody next to the house or whatever, can deem you to be in violation. And because the violation doesn't have any clear-cut way of saying yes or no, again, somebody within 200 feet on public property, listen to this, somebody within 200 feet of a home whose person and that home determines that they don't like you because you seem like a protester. You don't have a sign. You don't have anything, and you're one person. Right. Guess what else that ordinance could be used for? That ordinance could be used to prevent anybody that they deem doesn't look like they fit the profile of the community from taking a stroll in that community.
And let me make
this is more dangerous than people realize. I'm coming to you, John, in a minute.
Sometimes people don't grasp this. You can protest on a sidewalk. The First Amendment is your permit. So we've talked about here, I'm part of the John Cornyn Houston office protest, which is in front of an office building. Every Tuesday, 11:30 to 1, 5300 Memorial Drive. We are on a public sidewalk. You don't need a permit. The First Amendment is your permit. There are things you need a permit for. You need a permit for amplified sound. And actually, the second part of this ordinance deals with amplified sound. But you need a permit for amplified sound. You need a permit to be in the street. If you wanted to hold your rally at a pavilion, at Emancipation Park, at Discovery Green, you would need a permit. But you have the right today. If you say, I want to have a sign for Puerto Rican statehood and walk through the streets of downtown or walk through the streets of Kingwood or Northside or A-Leaf, you have that right. And if you want to stop in front of somebody's house because you're hot or because you're at the intersection in front and you want to be in this visible location with your sign for Puerto Rican statehood, you have that right. But so you could, and what this does, and these Gaza protesters, they are persistent. So if I'm at Mayor Whitmire Street, he says he cares about his neighbor, but all he's done is deflected. He's now not inconvenienced, but now he's deflected the protest 200 feet down the street. And so it'll be a whack-a-mole, just like Egberto said. It'll be a whack-a-mole. So the Gaza protesters are down the street. So now you can't be in front of any home. And now you can't be within 200 feet of any home.
This is an autocratic rule.
Contemplate that when we're when Vice President Harris wins and that election is thrown out because of 12,000 votes in Pennsylvania, or Colin Alred wins by 3,000 votes, you know that they have the ability to overturn elections in Harris County, right? Because of acts by the legislature. And so you want to protest that, and good luck.
Yeah, this is very serious, folks. This is very serious. Eric says protest at your own risk. And let me tell you, Eric, that's a guarantee. Again, I told you guys on the
Sure.
3 o'clock show yesterday that it would be nice if everybody read the Constitution. It's not a very long document. It's not a long document at all. Everybody should read the Constitution and stop being allowing these autocrats to come into the fold. I need to go to
Well,
Johnny. I need to go to Johnny, and then we can come back to this. Johnny,
yeah,
come on in, my brother. And folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that telephone number is 713-526-5738. How? Talk to me, Johnny.
So let me get this straight. They can come to our house and without a warrant or with a warrant and illegally, out of race hate, shoot and kill people that they don't like. They can come to our house, the people's house in Washington on January 6th, and defecate in the hallways on the carpeting and vandalize and steal and do all manner of things. That's okay, but we can't protest what they're doing in response. In other words, when George Bush was going down that limousine back in the day, remember after he was
Oh yeah,
elected or on a campaign trail or something, they had these, what the Republicans called, what was it, protest zones or free speech zones? So
yeah,
block
yeah.
away where he was, they had cyclone fencing put up, and all the libs were funneled into that, and they could jump up and down and holler and scream and put their signs up and down, and no one would hear it. It's the tree that fell in the forest, and nobody heard it.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. You
We
remember
have.
what I said? How we're going to have to get into the streets, literally and figuratively? This is
Yeah.
where it starts. And you're right. This is a serious, serious matter. This is serious. And this is another proof of what I said about that phony baloney Dino in the mayor's office in Houston. He's a Republican. Make no
Yeah, I
mistake.
mean, well, put it this way. He's out there. Kamala came into town yesterday. He's out there with her, but he refuses to endorse her. He's putting in ordinances that seem to be very autocratic. Like I said, remember this, folks. You have to watch all sides. It's not about party. Now, right now, the Democratic Party seem to be behaving themselves and not going full autocrat. But the Republican Party and Whitmire seem to be doing just that. Folks, the
well,
telephone
let
number
me.
is, hold on once again, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. One of the things, my brothers and sisters out there in radio land or in internet land or however you're listening to us, is we sit down and don't do a whole lot of stuff until it's too late. One of the reasons we got Trump is because we sat down until it got too late. One of the reasons we cannot afford to have a Trump is, again, we know why. The thing about it is you can't sit down and not join in the fold. You have to engage. Neil brought us this info today. I didn't know about it. I didn't read it in the Chronicle yesterday, Neil. So I thank you for bringing this I mean, that's why they always say crowdsourcing is a lot better than the alternative, where all of us are doing our part. Neil is out there. He watches the city council like a hawk. Make sure to go to HoustonDemocracyProject.com. Houston Democracy Project. It's .com, right? Houston Democracy
Yeah.
Project, where he'll keep you informed of all of this stuff. But folks, you can't just sit back and take this. I mean, when Neil sent me this ordinance and I started to read it, I couldn't believe it because, if you just kind of read it, you kind of say, okay, yeah, we don't want you to be messing with inconvenience somebody at your residence. They have kids, all that kind of stuff. But you read the detail of this ordinance, it, for somebody like me, I look at that as having a target on me because I know that folks like me, if you go in front of somebody's house, it is going to be a tool that is going to be used against you. Somebody know who you are, and you happen to walk across the house. There are people who call the cops for uh, just because. I could see
They
myself
do.
walking down a house here in Kingwood. I could see me walking on the street in Kingwood, and somebody say, "Yeah, that's a politics done right guy. I want you to move out of this
That is
area."
that's
Okay, and
right.
then after they say that, they call the cops. And because the ordinance says once you've been told to move, the next step, it can be immediate arrest. No asking you to move again or anything like that. It's immediate arrest because you've already been told to move, in this case by the homeowner, even though you're on public property. And then they throw you in jail, and it requires my investment to get out of jail, or even to prove that I was just walking there. I was just standing up. This is a clear and present danger to all of us. This is a serious ordinance. Continue, my brother.
Um, right. You can be arrested or ticketed. And um, the caller Johnny was saying, so he made the good points about insurrection and the Capitol and all that. But just to get into the hypocrisy of it, um, the political structures, they canvass your home for votes. So they could continue to come to your home, right? Now, everyone has the right to canvass, but they can, no, they're not restricting their own right to come to your home with a leaflet. And they should come to your home with a leaflet. But the hypocrisy where a political class says, um, um, you can't come to my home. You can't even stand outside my home with ill thoughts, because that's what this says. We can come to your home, and I've been looking for it, and I can't find it. I know I've seen it in the past. Each of our city parks in Houston has a designated free speech zone. I know I've seen it, and I've been looking for the last 2 minutes. But each of our city parks has a designated where, if they wanted to, a free speech zone, right? You know the whole country should be a free speech zone.
Right.
There are the structures in place. At Discovery Green, for example. So I'm getting into our ability to protest against insurrection. Discovery Green downtown, across from the convention center. I was doing an artistic project once. It wasn't even a political sign, and this was a few years ago. And I was just walking across, really, to get from A to B, and I got swooped on by a guy in a golf cart. In Discovery Green, you can only protest without a permit in one very specific designated area near the Rose Garden. And so within our public parks, there are quote unquote free speech zones. Within public private parks, which are many of the new larger parks, they are held not even to be fully public spaces. And they have even further restrictions. And then you
Yeah.
can't protest in the street, because then you're blocking the street.
Traffic. Yeah, they're trying to prevent protests
They've got
altogether.
it
I got
all
to go to
going on.
Donald. Yeah, Donald, come on in, and then I go back to Johnny. Come on in, Donald.
Hey, good morning, Egberto. It
Good
sounds like
morning, my
they're
brother.
protective. There sounds like they're getting a blanketed personal protective order for politicians or anyone
Yes.
that has.
Uh,
Okay,
You
well,
you nailed it, Donald. You nailed it.
exactly. The thing is, yes, it could be used for good or bad, but do you believe that they have a personal space that they can retreat to?
They're not going into the person's home. They're on public property. They're on the
No.
sidewalk.
I'm saying the politician, judges, district attorneys, police officers, shouldn't they have a personal space that they can retreat to?
Yeah, they're home. They're home.
Okay.
Yes.
What is it? What does a stalker do? It's kind of stalking at some point, I believe. If you want to do it in front of their office or their workspace or anything else, that's fine. If
Well,
you
let me-
want to protest, don't impede and infringe on other people's rights to free flow, because you have the right to for the pursuit of happiness, blah blah blah. But
Right,
aren't
but
you
there's
For that.
no
on the
Donald.
right when they're
Donald,
trying to?
let me push back, Donald, because this is a very in fact for especially for what I do, it is a very serious issue. Once you put yourself on in the public domain as a politician or somebody that has influence on on what we do, we protest you where we find you. We protest you where we find you. You committed yourself to actually do what you do, okay? Then if what you are doing affect us all, first of all, the Constitution gives us that right. The Constitution that everybody likes to talk about give us right. The Constitution has nowhere within its document for those who like to call themselves literalist or on the Constitution. The Constitution never said that you have a space that you can't be protested at or where the First Amendment doesn't apply. So I mean, the problem here is this: if you are executing things that affect other people, by God, we have to have the right to confront you, not physically, but make your life uncomfortable. Go ahead, Donald. Thank you, brother.
So it's right to incite fear into someone.
No, it's
Let
not
me,
fear.
You don't
let me,
have
let me,
that right. Yes, if you're standing out in front of someone's house and
Uh
that is
huh.
their home, and
Yes.
you are in a large group and they are an individual, you're inciting fear by numbers.
I live. When I walk in America, when I walk in front of a police officer, Donald, and I'm saying this from the depths of my heart, and anybody who knows me, you can speak to all the people that I hang with or whatever. I am in fear in certain instances by design in this country.
mm,
Okay, by design. And what I'm then saying is for me not to have the recourse to try to make things better. And the only recourse being to make that person who is making my life inconvenient themselves. What other recourse is there if that is not an authoritarian state? And that's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about putting anybody's life in fear. I'm not talking about harming anybody physically or anything of that nature. I'm saying just using the Constitution to try to make sure rights are maintained. That's all. Nothing less, nothing more.
Exactly, Alberto, and I can't agree with you. I agree with you 100% because we need to start doing it to the district attorneys and all the
Yes.
other people that are locking these people up. That's the point.
Yes.
We all go to the
Yes.
president, we go to the governor, we go to the senator. No, damn it, there are people in this political arena all the way from the district attorneys all the way down that are just on the stepping stones and the ladder to get themselves up that are
Yes.
causing these issues, and they all need to be protested against.
I agree, brother. And
So yes,
when we
it is
when
a blanket
bro,
protective order.
brother, when we open the door, when people know that doing right is what protects you against protest, doing the right thing protects you against protest is what it's all about. Because even for, let's say, there's a dispute among different groups, one group would be there to protect you. Because I tell you what, if somebody came and protest your home, Brother Donald, for something that is not right, you will have a posse there to protect you as well from the protest. So that's all I'm saying. But I got to move on. Time's kind of catching up with us. So Donald, thank you for calling, brother.
Okay,
Let me
later.
jump to.
Go.
Thank you. Peace. Let's jump to Johnny. Johnny, I have to be quick on this one because I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, damn, time kind of ran away from us today. Go ahead, right, Johnny.
Oh, you accidentally clipped my call. I was going to ask you, you're old enough to remember, even though you grew up in Panama, maybe you and people that you know who grew up here back in the 60s and 70s when I was coming of age, this idea of applying for protest permits from police, that was something new to me. I never heard that until
Yeah.
like late 70s, early 80s. To me, it's
Yeah.
anti-democratic, antithetical.
let me
Our
speak to that.
country, for U.S. citizens, 1 or 3 or 5 people that they have to go to the police department? What are we, Russia? And
Thank
by the
you.
way, at first I thought
Johnny, let me.
Donald was conflating because he was acting like at first he was defending the side of the Dino who's passing that ordinance.
No, look, wait, hold on, Johnny. That is the reason why we have dialogue so that people can hear all sides of the issue, and then and we all, myself included, have to be willing to say, I didn't look at it that way. I see what you're saying now. Let me let Aquino say it's a little piece, and then we have to jump to Patrick.
Oh,
Go ahead, Aquino. Go ahead,
Really quick,
Aquino.
to the point of the previous caller, the people deserve peace. First, they're very well protected. Let me be clear. HPD comes in, and there are a lot of cops at Mayor Whitmire's house. There probably are too many cops. I have not been part of the protest, but they are there. They are present. And then I'll just speak to the permit issue. The First Amendment is your permit. You do not need a permit. The First Amendment is your permit. And very frequently, when you go to HPD and say, I'm going to have a protest, that's their hook. They start to, hey, I hope it's just 90 minutes. Hey, you need 6 police officers that you need to pay for. There are circumstances where you do need a permit for sound in a park, a big park space, but the First Amendment is your permit.
It should be. Let's go to Patrick. Come on in, brother Patrick.
Donald did bring up a interesting argument, and I understand what he was saying, and he's probably even in agreement with this. But anytime I've been salaried in the past, I have had shifts where I'm expected to show up. But even when I'm not in those shifts, if a phone call rings or something, I'm expected to pick it up. And when a public official is representing me and I have something to say, they're on salary. They're on a salary I'm paying, so they need to listen. When you work for the public, you should expect to have more demands from the public. And if somebody's upset with you or doesn't agree with you, you need to listen to them. And if they're on public property, they don't need to be pushed anywhere. And the idea of these free speech zones and things like that, okay, you have to go across campus to access your rights. That's ridiculous. So,
Exactly.
No, there's no reason to
Patrick,
any words.
Patrick, one of the reasons that a lot of these things go through is because we have allowed them to go against the Constitution, right? I mean, if you notice, the people who like guns, they take the Second Amendment to the limit.
Mm-hmm.
They make the Second Amendment say things it doesn't say in order for them to have AR-15s, right?
And you can walk in with a gun, but you can't protest
Right.
anywhere.
Right. They do what the maximal for that. We as law-abiding citizens, most of the times without guns, we need to stand up for that amendment which protects us, which is that First Amendment. And when Neil, when Neil sent me this piece here, it got me more upset every time I reread it, because I look at it not solely for the words that it say, but how it can be used to cause me, personal, and others bodily harm from people who want to use it in a manner that affects people they don't like. It is amazing what this ordinance could do, and I hope people go out there and protest it appropriately. Go ahead, Neil. You wanted to say something before I go back to Patrick, real quick.
I don't encourage it, and we are very very clearly not encouraging it. But you could walk down the street, and it might with a weapon of war, fully legally, whoever's living on that street. But you cannot now, if this passes on August 13th, you could not stand outside Councilman Smith's house
with a sign, or without.
With a sign, but you could walk by Councilman Smith's house
with a gun.
Uzi.
Right, it's amazing. Wrap it up for me, Patrick.
Well, that's pretty much it. But you have a point too. I remember 20 years ago, the Tea Party would often combine First and Second Amendment at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people feared them, and nothing was done about it. They had police protection in addition to their guns.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it all depends on whether you believe in autocracy or not. Thank you, Patrick. Let's jump to Brian. Come on in, brother Brian.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for all the volunteer work that everybody does.
Thank you for that, Brian.
Yeah. When is the Democratic Party going to wake up and realize that they've been played for a fool?
I don't think that we've been played.
Okay.
Why?
Kamala Harris. Yeah, Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, went to fundraising party, whatever she did. Did you hear the accent she had?
Yeah.
She was like black. Yeah.
I heard it.
Clinton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clinton.
I heard it too. Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
She don't feel no way he's tired. Okay. Yeah. Then she goes to, like, say, Oregon. Perfect accent.
Okay, let me stop you right there, Brian. Brian, let me stop you right there. I'm a Panamanian, okay? I'm a Panamanian, all right? When I'm on the radio, I speak this way. When I'm talking to my friends, I'm like, whopping, man, I got to do this, man. Well, let's go ahead and do what we got to do today. You know what I mean, man? I go in and do all this kind of stuff, all right? That's my accent when I'm speaking to colloquially to my people. If I'm back in Panama, oye, ¿qué lo que sopa? Mira, te voy a decir algo, la UP, eso es lo que está pasando, pues. And when I'm on the radio, I'm in diction. Hi, Neil Aquino is here today with me, and I'm speaking in the appropriate language. So what I'm saying, when she comes to Texas, I notice that Kamala kind of put a little drawl on, and guess what I do? When I'm standing up with my Tea Party brothers here in Kingwood, you ought to hear how I sound. So it is something that people do. A lot of times it's out of respect, it's out of camaraderie, it's out of something to kind of like, I am with you, brother. So don't turn something that could be looked at as a positive, Brian, into a negative. All right? Because I know of a lot of people with a strong Texas drawl that when they are in different spaces, they speak differently. And as a person who's multi-ethnic and all these things, I have a lot of ways of speaking. And if you hear me speaking to my Panamanian brethren in English, it sounds very different than me on the radio. If you see me speaking to my Panamanian brethren in Panama in Spanish, it's very different. If I'm speaking to my Mexican brothers in Spanish, I don't speak Panamanian Spanish to them. I don't say queso palaupe to my Mexican brothers here when I'm speaking Spanish to them. So I'm saying, let's not make an issue that isn't an issue, brother. That's all. It's on you.
Yeah, no. Okay, she's black when she wants to be black. She's an Indian when she wants to be Indian.
Because she's both. She's both. She's Brian. She's black and she's Indian.
Her father is Jamaican. Her mother is Indian.
Okay, wait a minute. I am Panamanian. Okay, let me ask you this. I am Latino. Am I black?
I don't know that.
Well, let me just.
You're Latino.
I'm Latino. Go ahead, Brian. Hold on. Let my white guy speak here. Go ahead. Go ahead, Neil.
As a white guy, no one comes up to me and questions. Hey, are you half Italian and half Northern European? Right? No one questions me. The notion, and look how quickly I see Trump knew every word that he was saying at that conference yesterday. People loved. See, and so now we have white people, and you go back to Jim Crow days, and they would take black folks. Do you have 1/32nd black blood? Do you have 1/16th black blood? Do you have 1/4? And they had terms. They had all these crazy terms.
Octoroon and
yeah, all sorts of weird words, made up words. And so now, what you see how Trump is successful. You now have white people calling, and if I were running for mayor, he's or president, he's not half Northern European. Is he from Naples or is he from Copenhagen? What is he? But because she's a black person, we are back to a Jim Crow thing of What's her blood? What's her blood? It's some ugly stuff.
And here's the thing. Her father is a black Jamaican, right? Like I am a black Latino, black Panamanian, right? And Trump is so stupid. And when I say that he tried, and Brian, hear me out, and I say this with respect, Trump's goal is to make you not be smart. Because when he tries to say she's not black, her father is a black Jamaican. Her mother is a black Jamaican. Her mom is an Indian. Meaning, I wanted to do the qualified kind of Indian, an Indian from India. That's who she is. So she is black and she is Indian. So when he comes out there and say that, for any thinking person, Trump looked kind of, to put it nicely, stupid, because she's both. Now let me tell you further. She went to Howard University, the predominant black college. She also has been a member from college days of something called AKA. That is a Greek organization, a black Greek organization of the Fine Five, the Dynamic Nine, or whatever it's called. So right. So anybody who tells you that one time she's claiming to be Indian and one time she's claiming to be black is actually BSing you. And what I'm telling you is, I just told you a fact. Go tell your people the fact. She never tried to hide neither one of her identities ever. We're running out of time, so I got to go. Brian, we'll talk tomorrow. All right.
Of course we will. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, brother. Anyway, Neil, give me a quick closer. Quick.
Okay. HoustonDemocracyProject.com, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. The ordinance that we've been talking about, restricting protest in front of homes, will come up back before council on the 13th of August. Call your 5 at-large council persons, your district council person, the vice mayor, Castick Tatum at Houston City Council, and you can speak on the 13th. Go to the city website. You can speak for 1 minute or 3 minutes.
Okay.
Don't let this go.
Thank you very much. Chris, I never called. Haven't seen a Chris. So Chris, you got 15 seconds. 15 seconds, Chris. 15 seconds.
Hey, man, I was just going to say, man, they did the same thing with Obama, questioning his nationality and everything. You wouldn't be surprised if they do the same thing with Kamala, trying to prove any kind of discredit towards her. But
they're doing that already. Thank you, brother. Let's jump to the studio. 10 seconds each. Let's go.
10 seconds each. Okay, I invite you to listen to our tribute to Sheila Jackson Lee starting at 10 o'clock this morning with Akua Holt from Pan African Journal. And Jack, what do you got?
We are all hybrids.
Thank you very much, Jack. I love you, man. I love you. Love the entire crew. Love the callers. Love everybody. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk